Hello, my name is J.C. Ippolito, and I'm an assistant professor at Salem State University in Salem, Massachusetts. Today I'm going to be introducing a framework for improving content area literacy teaching and learning, a framework at the core of our new book on adolescent literacy research and practice. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge my colleagues and co-editors of the new volume, Josh Lawrence, a professor at the University of California, Irvine, and Colleen Zoller, an independent consultant with AdLit PD and Consulting. I want to also acknowledge Jenny Jacobs, a doctoral student at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, for her assistance with these slides. As literacy researchers, consultants, and former teachers and coaches, we have found that the sudden glut of information about adolescent literacy since the turn of the century, not all of it research-based or practical, can be confusing and overwhelming for current and future secondary teachers. This framework and our larger book has been designed to introduce and review 6 domains that we have found to have the most leverage in shifting the thinking and practices of teachers and teacher candidates in the schools we support. By focusing on 6 domains of teaching and learning, we are necessarily leaving out many nuanced aspects of secondary content area instruction. However, we believe that in this age of Common Core state standards, focus is critical to successfully improving teaching and learning with and across content area classes at the middle and high school levels. During the 20th century, content area teachers were widely encouraged to teach reading in their content area courses. While we obviously think literacy instruction is important, we do not believe that every teacher is a teacher of reading per se. Instead, we believe that all secondary content area teachers are responsible for teaching the language, genres, habits of mind, and norms of practice, or ways of thinking and ways of working, associated with their content area. This notion of shared responsibility is specifically supported by the Common Core state standards. The 6 domains that we present here form a natural bridge between content and literacy knowledge and instruction, as well as between teacher practice and student learning of discipline-specific skills. We have found that these 6 domains make great sense to content area teachers because they naturally support content learning and teaching, while simultaneously supporting students' growth as readers, writers, and presenters. Finally, we see these 6 domains as generative, leading to dozens of other instructional practices and student skills. So while we have narrowed our focus to just 6 domains, we believe that these 6 lead to other important subsequently adopted practices, such as fluency instruction, assessment practices, modified instructional practices for second language learners, or students with special needs. So, the 6 core domains at the heart of our framework include disciplinary literacy, vocabulary, discussion, digital literacy, multiple texts, and writing to learn. Notice that these are the core domains at the top edge of the steps on the bridge. Let me discuss each domain briefly, connecting teacher instructional practices with the development of certain student skills. Our first domain is disciplinary literacy. As Galloway, Lawrence, Moji, and Messina write in chapters 2 and 3 of our book, the growing field of disciplinary literacy invites teachers to carefully consider the reading, writing, oral language, and presenting demands of the texts and tasks embedded in their discipline. Disciplinary literacy instruction at the secondary level is increasingly being trumpeted as a means to prepare students for success in college and the workplace. While researchers such as Galloway, Lawrence, and Moji, and teachers and coaches such as Lisa Messina are just beginning to explore the opportunities afforded by this way of thinking about instruction, the implicit focus on disciplinary literacy in Common Core ensures that secondary teachers will be designing and implementing discipline-specific literacy lessons for years to come. We have seen secondary content area teachers focus on disciplinary literacy to encourage students' awareness of the different demands of discipline-specific texts, the adoption of critical thinking skills within and across domains, and the adoption of discipline-specific ways of thinking and working. A focus on disciplinary literacy is critically important to improving content area teaching and learning because it encourages all teachers to understand and model the ways expert mathematicians, scientists, historians, and literary critics read, write, and present information. By understanding and modeling the ways the experts in various disciplines work, secondary teachers are better preparing students for college and workplace demands, a main goal of Common Core. Our next domain is vocabulary instruction. While very few educators would argue that teaching vocabulary and encouraging students to learn new words represents a radical shift in educational policy, the Common Core state standards add a subtle but important distinction. Quoting from the Common Core, page 8. The vocabulary standards focus on understanding words and phrases, their relationships, their nuances, on acquiring new vocabulary, particularly general academic and domain-specific words and phrases. Researchers, teachers, and coaches, such as the authors of chapters 4 and 5 in our book, Josh Lawrence, Bridget Maher, Catherine Snow, and Christina Dobbs, are increasingly noting the importance of emphasizing and teaching both general academic and domain-specific words to secondary students. Just to explain a little bit more, general academic language words are those that are found across academic texts, across disciplines, and are often found on the academic word list. These are words such as distribution, however, and analyze. These are often words that don't get taught in secondary classrooms. They're the glue words in between the content-specific words. Content-specific words are those words that are found and primarily used in specific content area texts, like hypotenuse, mitochondria, or denouement. These are words that you'd only find in each content area text. We have seen secondary content area teachers focus on both types of vocabulary because it can encourage students' awareness of and fluency with academic and workplace language, can strengthen reading comprehension within and across disciplines, and build oral language proficiency. Again, primary goals of Common Core. Our third domain is discussion. While listeners may nod their heads upon hearing that discussion is a core domain of instruction in secondary classrooms, spending more time on content-rich, authentic discussions in secondary classrooms actually represents a shift from what researchers have historically found to be very little time spent on discussion in middle and high school classes. For statistics about the small amount of time on average spent on discussion in classrooms, see Catherine Michener and Evelyn Ford Connors, Chapter 6. The nature of the discussions suggested by Common Core include teacher-led, student-led, pair discussions, small group discussions, whole class discussions, all with a range of partners. This wide range of discussion formats represents a shift away from what researchers have found to be predominantly teacher-led discussions in traditional secondary classrooms. The Common Core does not always provide specific suggestions for achieving the goals it suggests, and the discussion is one domain in which many of our teaching colleagues have argued, we need examples. How do we have these conversations? In response, Margaret Metzger and Abby Erdman's Chapter 7 is a brief account of the journey many of us expect to take as we move mostly from teacher-led whole class discussions to more authentic student-led classroom conversations. We believe that this is one domain in which more research and evidence of best practices is sorely needed. We've seen secondary content area teachers focus on discussion, encourage students' oral language skills, encourage engagement, promote evidence-based argumentation and rhetorical skills, support vocabulary growth, and serve as a bridge between reading and writing tasks and skills. Discussion plays a prominent role in Common Core as an instructional tool, including a wide range of types and focus on text and evidence-based discussions that deepen the learning of content. Our fourth domain focuses on instructional digital literacy tools and skills. Digital literacy is a catch-all phrase encompassing a wide range of 21st century instructional practices and skills, all related to students' use of technology for formal, in-school, and informal, out-of-school learning and communication. In this information age, students' awareness and use of digital tools must be part and parcel of content area instruction, and some explicit instruction in the use of digital literacy tools, from evaluating websites to navigating and organizing information to collaborative online writing, will surely be critical to students' success in college and the workplace. Common Core certainly suggests first steps in the domain of digital literacy, focusing on students' use of technology to conduct research, evaluate information, and consider the purposes of different types of text. However, this represents only the beginning of what students have been and will be learning in digital environments. The authors of Chapters 8 and 9 in our book, Josh Lawrence, Mark Borschauser, Binbin Zhang, Diana Mullins, Annie Ziegerbell, suggest multiple opportunities for teachers to make deeper connections between the content they are teaching and students' personal experiences with technology. Personalization of learning is perhaps the greatest opportunity technology affords, and in future revisions of the Common Core standards, we would like to see this domain featured more prominently. We have seen secondary content area teachers focus on digital literacy, encourage students' abilities to code switch within and across content areas and domains, encourage fluency with online and offline texts, and encourage understanding and use of the connections among formal, academic, and informal ways of talking about and understanding the world, not to mention increasing students' motivation, engagement, creativity, and self-reflection related to content area learning. Our fifth domain is the use of multiple texts in content area instruction. Cynthia Shanahan in Chapter 10 of our book clearly reviews the connections between Common Core and the notion that the use of multiple texts must be a core instructional practice in secondary content area classrooms. She outlines how students' use of multiple texts are referred to more than 85 times across grade levels, are evident in all major emphases, literature, informational texts, history, social studies, science, technical subjects, and writing, and that they progress in expectations for reading from general comparison of text to comparisons of structure to specific arguments in text to evaluations of credibility and usefulness. Clearly, the use of multiple text is embedded in the new standards, and we could not agree more that strategic selection, use, and evaluation of multiple text is of utmost importance across content areas. Joanna Lieberman and Janet Looney in Chapter 11 of our book provide multiple examples of how texts, as part of text sets, can increase the rigor and opportunity for learning in secondary content area classrooms. We have seen secondary content area teachers focus on multiple texts, encourage students' awareness of and facility with content across a wide range of genres, and promote the adoption and practice of complex synthesis and analysis skills. Moreover, use of multiple texts increases students' opportunities to access and engage with content area concepts, formats, and genres. While there has been much debate about text complexity as the result of Common Core's focus on use of challenging texts with students, we believe this debate is a bit of a red herring. If secondary content area teachers focus on using multiple texts to teach concepts, then they will naturally be providing opportunities for students to engage with challenging as well as accessible texts. Finally, our sixth domain is writing to learn. Many secondary content area teachers, including English language arts teachers, might be most apprehensive about the large focus on writing in the Common Core standards. Not only are a handful of anchor standards devoted specifically to writing, but most of the standards imply that writing is one of the ways that students will digest, analyze, and interpret what they've read. Accordingly, we have emphasized writing as a core skill in our book because it overlaps with aspects of the writing standards in Common Core and intentionally sidesteps the more traditional way that secondary teachers often think about writing instruction, as final products that demonstrate mastery of content area knowledge. In our experience, secondary classrooms are often filled with writing projects that are assigned, collected, and graded without much instructional time spent modeling the writing process or teaching students how to write notes, outline, draft, or more generally use writing as a tool for understanding and learning content. The word writing appears hundreds of times in the Common Core standards, yet many of those appearances may confuse readers looking for guidance on how to engage students more thoughtfully in the writing process. We have seen secondary content area teachers focus on writing to learn encourage students' adoption of workplace writing skills, use of writing to clarify thinking, and make sense of complex texts, and make evidence-based arguments when translating language thinking into writing. Vicki Jacobs and Carol Booth Olson, in chapters 12 and 13 of our book, make a case for the importance of writing to learn in secondary content area classrooms, as well as provide dozens of writing to learn strategies and resources for readers wanting to learn more. Of course, the framework we've just outlined, focused on 6 core domains of teaching and learning that bridge literacy and content goals, are only one part of larger cycles of collaborative teacher inquiry. In our work with middle and high school teachers, in schools and summer institutes, undergraduate and graduate courses during the academic year, we find it helpful to encourage teams of teachers within and across disciplines to engage in strategic inquiry cycles to improve instruction. We encourage teams to ask questions related to the 6 core domains, explore and share existing pedagogical knowledge within and across content area departments, connect current practices and student needs back to the 6 core domains, both reviews of current research and reviews of best practices, apply new ideas to specific classrooms and groups of students, and observe and reflect on the results of new approaches. The process of ongoing observation and reflection is so important because it sparks new questions and begins the inquiry cycle once again. We hope that this framework makes sense for your instructional purposes, and I would be more than happy to talk more about this framework, our new book, or any other questions related to this work. Thank you for listening.